welcome back to Typecast Heroes, where we believe typology can save the world. I'm Jessie Miller.
And I'm Amanda Fogelson, and today we're going to start a new series, The Cognitive Functions.
Yay!
This series serves as a teaser for our 16-episode podcast that's going to be coming out by the end of this summer. And in case you're new to Typecast Heroes, in order for that series to actually come out, we need 100 of each personality types, 100 of each of the 16 personality types, before we release the data that we've been collecting over the past few months. So we need you to come interview with us. And if you need a reminder about the project or you want to know more, click the link below and you can go watch our first video, which is Welcome to Typecast Heroes.
So you just watched all of our videos, hopefully, about how you took the test and you got your 4 letters, and now what do you do? So you understand that the 4 letters give you a code to understand which of the cognitive functions you rely on most. So brief overview of Carl Jung's philosophy or psychology. You use these dichotomies to make decisions and perceive information. Mm-hmm. So remember, people spend a lot of time on the internet arguing about how these functions work, about how much power you have, what percentage they use, and how they can prove all of the things. But that's not really what we're doing today. My argument is that we're giving people language because emotional fluency is super important to every person, and giving you the proper language to describe things that are happening in your brain, or a language in general, is beneficial to anyone. Yep. So that is why we do what we do, even if you are not entirely sold on all of the things that Carl Jung said or all of this psychology. In addition to the language part, it also gives people a way to describe things that are going on in society and in relationships and with themselves. So at the end of the day, it's a win for all.
So our very first part of the series is going to be discussing Extraverted Intuition, which is NE, capital N, little e. That does not mean, again, referring back to some of our past videos if we watched them, extroverted in the sense does not mean a social extrovert. It does not mean that you want to go party, 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 or be around people all the time. That's not what we're discussing. It absolutely can. It does for me. But that is not what we're talking about here. In typology, extroverted means that the way that you are taking in information or making decisions is based on the outside world, not you internally. So another reminder that everyone and anyone can be anything. So just because you may find that you relate to some of the explanations that we're about to go down and some of the examples, and let's say you're an INTJ or something, don't automatically dive in and be like, this is so me. I absolutely have, everyone, first of all, everyone has all these functions. At some point, you will use all these functions. So everyone will end up relating a little bit here and there. But again, know who you are at your core, find your default setting, that's what we always say, and just really hone into that when you're listening to some of these examples and explanations. So going into the types that most heavily rely on extroverted intuition, that is the ENTP, which is myself, an ENFP, an INFP, and an INTP. Her favorite.
Yes, one of my top favorites. So, like Amanda said, remember that extroverted intuition does not mean that you are extroverted in the sense that you like people. It means that when you perceive information, you are actually looking outward. You're outward focused for how you are taking in the environment around you. Extroverted intuition is constantly seeking new things. It is very consumer based. It wants new experiences, new information, new locations.
It wants more. It wants more of the new.
All the time, right?
All the time.
Every day. Let's find new things to do. Yep. It has a tendency to drop information very quickly to take in new information. And sometimes that means that it can remain less loyal to things that it has had so that it can make room for all of the new things that it wants to learn, because it is a consume. I want to learn all of the things right now and I want to know it. However, this does not automatically mean that extroverted intuition is super flighty, because all of these cognitive functions are on what's called an axis, which means that there are 2 functions that work together. So extroverted intuition works with introverted sensing. So introverted sensing, if you watched our video of S versus N, means that you pull on your own past experiences, your past knowledge, your past information. So extroverted intuition works by pulling on all of those past things and learning new things from it.
So to explain the axis a little bit more, you will always see NE and SI will be the opposite of each other because they balance each other. So in this sense, taking my type as an example, as an ENTP, I lead, there's the four functions, see this graphic? I lead with extroverted intuition, and my fourth function is introverted sensing. A different example, an INFP, their second function is extroverted intuition, and their third function is introverted sensing because, again, they have to be the opposite. So it's going to be next to each other or apart. That's how it works.
So when you perceive things with extroverted intuition, it's like seeing everything through this filter of what could be. So again, if you watch our video, we use that example of the box, and we talked about how Amanda doesn't see the box. She saw what the box could be, right? So introverted sensing is very different because it's a capture system of what you've been through and everything that has personally happened to you, everything you've read. So this capture system matters to extroverted intuitives because it keeps them grounded. It's going on in the background for them. So they're not completely always learning new things. They do have this great introverted sensing grounding going on. All right, so now that we've got these scientific definitions out of the way, we're going to jump into some examples. So first, we're going to talk about how an extrovert relies on extroverted intuition because it's very different
than what an introvert does with extroverted intuition. So one thing that we tend to notice across the board with ENTPs and ENFPs, so the extroverted types that use extroverted intuition, is that just like Jesse said, a lot of times we kind of push things out of our mind to make room for more things. And a lot of times that's a very quick response. Like something happens to us and then it's stored in our memory forever, but it's not necessarily something that we're accessing constantly until something reminds us of it. So Jessie had actually just made the comment to me the other day when we were talking about this, that she has noticed, especially in a lot of these cases, and when we're talking to people, that I will often say, oh, I relate to that so much. And Jessie's known me for like over 10 years. We've been best friends. And these are certain things where when I say I relate to it, she's like, what the hell? Like,
yeah, I out of nowhere.
She's like, do you though? Like something that she has never heard me say, never knew that I related to, would have never thought anything of it. And for me, I'm like, oh yeah, that was actually a huge part of my life 15 years ago, you know? And it's something that I would have completely forgotten about had someone not brought it up. But the second they bring it up, it's brand new information again that I'm kind of pulling forward. Right. If that makes sense.
So I refer to it as like almost like reverse memory. It's like they don't have, the memories are not up here. So the memories are like way back there. And so extroverted intuition is like running around, and like when it doesn't recognize itself, it doesn't recognize that SI until it sees it. And then it sees it again. It's like, oh yeah, I know you. I have that. So it's really actually kind of fascinating to me.
It is. And speaking of like why these types matter, you guys, I have thought that I've had the worst memory my entire life. Like now, according to my job and all that, I can remember everything. But when it comes to me trying to pull in like a childhood memory, like we've talked about this over and over again, it's like I didn't even exist as a child. Right. That's what it feels like. But there are certain things that someone will say, and I'll be like, oh yeah, when I was 4 years old, I was caught in a snowstorm for 5 days, and I remember this, and this.
And I've never heard this story before.
Where did that come from? And even for me, I'm like, I lived through it. Yeah. I mean, it's literally like it's brand new information to me almost. Even though I knew that it happened, I never would have remembered it. So it's kind of like reliving my own life. It's interesting.
I think it's really cool though.
It is really cool. But that's what I was saying. So the type, so having this language and knowing this about myself now, about why my brain function, or how my brain functions rather, it makes me feel less nervous. I mean, it's kind of scary when you feel like you have no memory of your childhood. That's a little nerve-wracking. And so this kind of makes way more sense to me about why there are certain things that I will forget often, you know, even long-term memories. So it makes me feel more comfortable and understood, and I understand myself better, which always feels good.
Right. And so like ENTPs and ENFPs, one of the common things that I hear from them is that they have trouble focusing, right? Because they want to learn everything all the time. Like they want to learn all that they can. They want to do everything very quickly, because extroverted intuition is very like in the now, and they they move very, very fast. They talk fast. They do things fast. They like move through life at like a breakneck pace. Like just so much faster than me. It drives Amanda crazy. I think that I go so slow. But it's okay, because by explaining what extroverted intuition is, I think it gives them the power over it, the power to love it and to just like take power, and like if they want to temper it down, to change it. And if they don't want to just own it.
Yeah.
Take charge. Be like, yes, I am an extroverted intuitive. Like, this is me. Cool.
Yep. There are a lot of positive and negatives that you'll hear us talk about, and that you probably feel about each of your functions. And NE definitely has both of those. It's so awesome and so fun and creative, and can give you the craziest, wildest ideas that people will look at you and be like, what the hell? And then you're going to blow their minds. And it's the best moment. But then there are also times where you're in analysis paralysis for like 72 hours straight, and you can't move, and you feel like you're tethered to the floor because you just can't make a move because there's too many options. Like it can go both ways. So you probably, if you have any, relate to everything I just said.
Right. And it is important to note too that there are other types that have extroverted intuition as their third function, but we will go more into depth for what that means when we go into the specific types. So right now we're just covering the ones that have it as their dominant perceiving function.
Which for extroverts would be your first function. For introverts, remember, since they're a little opposite, it's your second function.
Right. So now we're going to talk about how the introverts would use extroverted sensing, which is a little different. So that is for the INFPs and the INTPs. So we do have.
I'm actually married to an INFP, so I can speak to it a little bit. Little bit.
I have like a lot of dear friends who are INTPs. My INTP out there, buddies. Hey, I love you guys.
What up?
I love you guys so much. You guys are my buds. Okay, so the introverts who rely on extroverted intuition, they have a judging function first, as you can see. So for the INFP, it would be FI, and for the INTP, it would be TI. So they move a lot slower than an ENTP. So if you took a test and you're on the line between the I and the E, it's very important that you understand that there's a huge difference in how you're going to present yourself, because a person who leads with a judging function first is going to take their time to make a decision, whereas an ENTP
is going to go.
Doesn't always.
Yeah, no.
So an introvert who has extroverted intuition, it's more like they apply it to their internal worlds. So just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek about the data and what the research has shown, when we ask the question, describe the inside of your mind, people who use extroverted intuition can't do it very well. They have a really hard time. But introverts, who I ask that same question to, give beautiful worlds. Like
so
long,
creative.
Yes.
So descriptive.
Definitions of like amazing, beautiful places. Because they've taken their extroverted intuition, which again, remember, extroverted intuition makes connections with the outside world, makes all of these connections. And so what they've done is they take it from the outside world and they apply it to their internal mind, and it's just like,
that's kind of where that
mind blowing.
it's taking what's in the outside world, and you're almost connecting it in like abstract ways though. So it's
like you're using your TI, your introverted thinking, to control the extroverted intuition.
Yeah.
And you're putting it on paper. Yeah. And it is beautiful. Or you'll take your introverted feeling. Like I have a friend who writes and INFP and will just write like these most amazing things, because using introverted feeling to like power through with that extroverted intuition, and it's just outstanding. And extroverted intuition gives you the power to do that. Now, if you are a good writer, that does not automatically mean that you have introverted intuition.
Your core, who you are, your default setting. Remember all that. You can be an excellent writer and not be anything that we're talking about right now.
Right. So extroverted intuitives or people who rely on extroverted intuition who are introverts, they tend to have a little bit more control over how they perceive things. But they are still going to want that novelty. They are still going to want new information. They're still going to want to consume all of the things very quickly. It's just they are a lot more slow to do so, because they've got that judging function first. So again, one of the things that INTPs and INFPs say often about themselves is that they daydream too much. They daydream, they can't plan forward because they spend too much time in their own head. They have trouble with adulting or like real life things. So again, understanding that extroverted intuition is a gift, and to take power over it, to learn to love it, to take charge of it, or if you want to change it, to try to change it. I think that gives you a whole lot of authority over your own life, right?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And I think one thing that I've learned throughout this process, and we were actually just talking about this the other day, that in one of the Facebook groups I'm in for ENTPs and INTPs, they were talking about how, we can do all these things, like all these amazing things can come out of NE. But then when it comes to like doing your laundry or washing your car or making your bed in the morning or anything like that, it takes out every ounce of energy that's in your body. And that's so true. And so it's another thing that I think we've found through this, and that specifically that I've seen like other people talk about, and that I experience as well, is that a lot of times with your NE, the way to kind of tone it or to tame it a little bit, especially if you are an extroverted type, and you don't have your FI or your TI to kind of balance it, is to learn discipline. It's not something that's just going to come natural to you most of the time. It's something that you're going to have to train yourself to do. It is straight up discipline, or making creative ways to do it. One of the people was talking about how they pretended like they were on a YouTube channel and they were teaching people how to fold their clothes more efficiently.
I love it.
And I'm like, that's for sure something I could get done with. But yeah, so just there's a lot of different ways to really see the gift that NE is. And again, as much as I feel like there's people who actually have it can see it in a very negative light sometimes because it is so much and it can be so overwhelming. But if you can really learn how to use it and how to access it when you should and when it works for you, it's such a beautiful thing, and so much can come from it.
So it's important to own both your extroverted intuition and acknowledge that you also have introverted sensing. Acknowledge that you have introverted sensing. Acknowledge that you have introverted sensing.
I acknowledge.
And you have to own both of those things because they work together. And the stronger your introverted sensing is, the better of an extroverted intuitive you're going to be. So that discipline that Amanda was talking about, that is part of introverted sensing, because routine is built into your past experience. So the more you do something over and over again, the more it's built into your SI, the better your extroverted intuition has to come out and play. It's like a child who has like the freedom to play in a very confined space. So like allow your extroverted intuition to play within a certain amount of confines for a more healthy, well-rounded human being.
Exactly. You can avoid that analysis paralysis or that overwhelming feeling often if you will use your SI. And I know from personal experience how hard that can be sometimes to really let your SI shine, because your NE feels like it just wants to go, but it's worth it.
So if you love an extroverted intuitive, this is my advice to you and to society as a whole. You need to give them so much grace. Let them explore the world. Let them live out their extroverted intuitive passions. Let them figure it out. Let them start 1,000 projects that they'll never finish. Let them paint half of the door and then change the color. Let them be themselves. Let them do it.
And also listen. Just, I feel like that's one thing is listen to the crazy ideas, and just know that at the end of the day, we already know that we're going to change our minds. So like,
right?
It's not like we're sitting here saying like, I'm going to start painting this door purple. And then, good example, actually, we're painting our house right now. And my husband could tell you this is exactly how the brain works with NE, is that the second that you start painting, you're like, oh wow, that was a bad color choice, I'm gonna go choose something else. And like, we've already painted half the house and I'm changing my mind. And he just goes with the flow because he just understands that, first of all, I probably already knew that. P.S. I did. And then second, it's just that's how I have to work. That's just how I am. And he loves me for it. He loves me through it, rather.
And he understands because he has it too. So he's got it in his own mind.
Yep. That makes a big difference. But I do think, and even at work, in my position, like so often, I mean, this is actually more towards any users, how you can fit in a little bit better in society, what you probably should practice. But
no, say screw it, just be yourself. Forget that. Society changes, you don't change.
You don't change.
I am a big proponent of society changes for you.
And I agree, but I will say that other people's happiness is like my dream. Like I just want everyone to be happy. And
okay, FE child.
That's my FE child coming out. And, but I mean it, and it's the cheesiest saying, and I'll say it forever though. But I just really want everyone to be happy, and I think that part of that comes from not only understanding what your functions are and how you function in society, but also how other people are going to perceive you, whether it's fair, whether you like it, whatever. At the end of the day, be smart. Figure out how other people see you. Mm-hmm. And I know my NE is not loved in a corporate environment. It's just not. And so typically, I tend to see that my NE is not necessarily loved in a corporate environment. So I know that I really have to hone in my TI, my SI. I really have to let those kind of take over a little bit in those situations. So just, either find a career that your NE can just take off and run wild. ENTPs are kind of known to be entrepreneurs a lot because of that, because we don't necessarily fit into
ENTPs, ENFPs, INTPs, and INFPs all do that.
Yes.
All four types do better in environments where they're their own boss.
Mm-hmm. It's a hard situation to be told what to do when
y'all don't like being told what to do. No. I love you all, but you don't like being told what to do.
No, especially if you disagree with it. It's one of the hardest things, and especially if it affects people around you, and it's trigger if you're one of the extroverted ones and it's triggering or actually just ENTPs, if it's triggering your FE or your FI, if it's triggering your morals and it's not working out for you.
ENFPs, oof,
yeah,
don't make an ENFP mad.
Yeah, it's especially if you're hurting others or anything like that.
No.
It's not going to work out for you. So again, corporate environments for myself doesn't really work out well. But yeah, so just kind of know what your NE can look like, and truly it can look a little chaotic. It can look like you're spazzing out a little bit sometimes.
Can look like it?
And again, you're kind of doing it. You are. So again,
no, they don't.
Own it.
They think it's fine.
They think they're
fine. Everybody just do their own thing.
Yes.
It's all fine.
It is. And just be yourself and
we just do the best we can.
Yes. All the time. Be the best you that you can be.
Because being a human is hard.
And this makes it a little bit easier.
Thank you for watching our video, and we'll catch you on the next Typecast Heroes. Bye.
Bye. Should we do toodles?
No.
See you on the next Typecast Heroes. I'm including that one. That's the one we're using. That one right there.